Hey everybody, welcome back to the Knowledge Broker Podcast. This is our second episode. I'm Joshua Campbell, your host, and joining me as always is Trish Riswick, who continues to tell me that I mess up her last name because she says I slur the Riz or the Wick.
It's Riswick?
Riswick. Okay.
Riswick?
Riswick. Everybody practice that at home. So, what are we doing for our second podcast?
Well, I am really excited about our podcast today because I think this topic we kind of went over a little bit last week when we talked about your naming, your logo, when it came to Knowledge Broker and all that kind of stuff. So today we are talking about curating your brand identity. And with that in mind, we're also going to be talking about your personal brand identity. So first things first, I wanted to ask you, what do you think brand identity means?
Oh,
yeah.
As a person or as a business?
It kind of can go coincide with each other, but yeah, let's start with business.
Okay. So brand identity, I would guess it would be like the way that people could identify with a brand. Mm-hmm. Meaning that if they, often we wear things that we think represent us as ourselves. So some people go out and maybe buy Nike shoes because they want to be known as the way that Nike presents themselves, which is maybe professional, athletic, sporty, and whatnot. So if we look at brand identity, I know myself, I like nice watches, and it's kind of like I identify myself with a nice watch because it's important to me. Mm-hmm. I also think about, like, say, Knowledge Broker, and if we present ourselves as like a professional, knowledgeable, consistent, quality company, that's what I think that people could identify with in regards to brand. So when you say what's brand identity, mm-hmm. I think it's more or less what identifies with you as a person.
Okay.
And and it's almost like an alignment. So it makes sense that when we have marketing companies out there, that they're trying to go after certain people, mm-hmm. and then it's funny how those certain people want them as well.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the answer in front of me.
Oh.
But when I think of brand identity, I do think about how people think about brands. I think that's a big thing, or how the brand markets themselves. Because it is so important that, you're marketing yourself to your audience, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what brand identity to me kind of represents. It's to marketing to your audience. The full definition that I found that I think sums it up perfectly is the collection of all elements that a company creates to portray the right image to its consumer. So logo, font.
It's image.
Yeah, image is everything.
Image.
Yeah. So that's kind of the, I guess, jumping off point for today's podcast.
Yeah.
Talking about brand identity, using Knowledge Broker kind of as a case study to identify, how it was created and where we can move on from there. So the first thing I want to ask is, how would you describe Knowledge Brokers? So last week we talked logo, naming, more than just that. How would you describe its elements that portray what we portray to our consumer?
Yeah. Well, you work here as well, so I'd like to hear your intake on that. When I think of the image of Knowledge Broker, I wanted people to think that it was a very clean, concise, quality, consistent, fun. Mm-hmm. When I think about the things that we do, I like to make it about the clients, and the clients are more or less the faces of our company. Although you see a lot of myself founding it, but I like to have all of our clients come to events, mm-hmm. which are really client focused, which I am a big social person. I like to enjoy going out with people, and what better way to do it than to host it? Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised how you have to host parties in order to see people sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a reality. But if you make a really fun environment where people come and everybody starts to get to know each other, even clients that don't know each other, before you know it, they're very similar and very mm-hmm. alike. So when I think about the image that, I'm probably getting a little bit offline here.
One of Josh's tangents.
Yeah. When I think about the image of Knowledge Broker, I like to think of it as a fun, community involved, for myself, but also our clients to be community involved. I like the giving side of things, so we do a lot of philanthropy where we I guess, expose some things that are going on within communities so that people know about these things. We've done underwear drives, which was one of our first things that we did. Last year we did incontinence drives, which is something that I want to tell people now that they might not know about quickly. One
Yeah, go
side
ahead.
tangent again. The incontinence thing was something that we did for In From the Cold and for Belinda's Place, which was, a lot of people don't talk about these things, adult diapers, as people would say. Uh, People don't realize that that's a big need, and they're super expensive. So last year when we brought it up, it wasn't the sexiest thing in the world to do as a giveaway. I think we actually had less people do it last year than normal. I don't know if it was the cost of it or just people didn't want to do it. But my job was to make sure people knew about it.
Yeah.
So that people knew that it was a problem, because you do get some people with drug addiction and who knows, elderly, that need these things. So we were bringing up the things that people don't necessarily want to talk about, which is probably part of the image of real estate, where we don't hide the truth.
Yeah.
We expose it,
Yeah.
and we make sure that everybody's well aware of what they're doing, and they're all the way through the entire process, which is part of that transparency thing too.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to just pick apart from what you said was about your clients, and how when you have client events, you see that clients can kind of intermingle, and they become friends almost. And I think that actually does really sum up a good portion of the brand identity that Knowledge Broker gives off, and who we are, because we kind of have almost like a perfect client. Everyone has a perfect client kind of thing, or they have a consumer that they're targeting. And I think in the sense that our clients, they kind of become friends, or they can talk and they can socialize. I think that does go to the fact that we are targeting a group of people that have shared common interests and can find some common ground together. So I think that's a very strong sign of our brand identity.
Agreed. They target us too,
Yeah, of course.
which is neat, because it's kind of like you target them. Or I guess I talk about this in the context of people that date. If you the way that you dress and you carry yourself, no different than the way that your business carries on and conducts business, that's going to attract the other side. So if you conduct yourself in a very professional manner, you're going to get professional people. If you conduct yourself in a very fun manner, you're going to get fun people. If you conduct yourself in probably a sleazy way, you're probably going to get sleazy people. So it's almost like what you push out is what you'll get back in the world. And the nice thing is, for us, we do it the way that feels the most natural.
Yeah.
I like to think that a lot of clients are very similar to myself, which is usually the case. We often attract people that are like-minded. So yeah, that being said, on the event side, I used to think when people come to events, I used to wonder if I had to like create conversation and spark conversation amongst people. I don't.
Yeah.
It's funny how you can literally step back and it creates themselves, because people are very similar.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So what I think Knowledge Broker's brand identity is I do think it is a professional work environment that strives on transparency. So that being said, though, we also are a fun real estate company that is strong. And I think that shows with, something as simple as what we post on social media, or to even like our logo and our design. And the reason why I bring up that is because I was kind of looking into it, and as we all know, color says a lot about a company. For example, pink is often associated with femininity. Red is often associated with fun, passion, youthfulness. So I kind of wanted to look up to see what, blues, yellows, which is our main primarily used logo. So blue is actually the most universally appealing color in the spectrum. It can create a more stable and trustworthy vibe from your brand. And it also appeals to a wide demographic. So it's kind of interesting. You might have thought was there any subconsciousness to picking blue?
I betcha.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, it makes me think about it.
Yeah.
I've always liked blue. The signage of blue, like when I got into real estate, the brokers that work for Coldwell Banker, it's blue. And I looked at all the colors in the spectrum.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of colors. Every single sign is different.
Yeah.
I was
A
very
lot
much
of red, though.
Yeah, a lot of red.
There's a lot of red.
Sure there is. Remax is like a red, white, and blue, which I think might have to do with it's an American-owned company,
Yeah.
and it's probably popular colors. Royal LePage is red and white because they associate a lot of stuff with Canadian and whatnot. Coldwell Banker being international, it's a huge international company.
Yeah.
They go blue. And it's weird how you are attracted to these things. There's a cruise line that my parents have been on. I think it's Holland America. And it's got the whole hull of the ship is blue.
Okay.
Or like navy blue. And I kid you not, if someone said, okay, pick your boat. Do you want this one, or this one? I'd go after the one with the blue hull. There's something about it that maybe looks aquatic. It looks wealthy, maybe luxurious. It looks high quality.
Yeah.
It looks different than the rest. So, I mean, with blue, it is I'm surprised that you said universal, but it makes sense now. So subconsciously, I betcha I naturally strive towards blue. I'm in blue today.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's why
Yeah.
when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's actually such an interesting point, because you think about so many big name logos. Like if you think about 3 logos off the top of your head, like maybe Apple, Nike, and Adidas. A lot of time their logos are white,
Black and white.
black and white. So black is
I think Nike was red.
Nike was red at the beginning.
The check mark, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that would make sense for like a youthful audience. But like Apple is usually just white or like the off gray.
Yeah, or transparent.
Yeah, I think it was a rainbow at one point, but
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
But for a
when it
while,
was Mac.
Yeah, when it was Mac, yeah. But right now it's just white. So anyone not growing up with, Apple,
Yeah.
you'd just see a white apple.
I don't know if I was having this conversation with you yesterday. I don't think I was. No, someone else. It's an interesting tangent. They were talking about the use of white labeling. Back in the day, they were actually talking about feminine products.
Okay.
And all of the feminine products in the pharmacy were all white at one point. And apparently Kotex went out and made theirs black. And people stood out. And it stood out. And then before you know it, all the companies went with a wide range of colors.
Yeah, actually.
So, yeah, go figure. So that being said, white's been the standard.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it becomes a revolution when people recognize that it's not the only thing that's out there, and then you can change it up to identify.
Yeah, exactly. And what I was also going to say is even yellow. Like yellow, we have the yellow light bulb, and that's kind of like our signature little light bulb. It's everywhere. Yellow is pretty standard. It just kind of means happiness, sunshine, all that kind of stuff. So I do think that also appeals to our brand identity, and I think it's neat that way.
I like that. It's I think when I think of yellow and blue, I think of like sun in the sky.
Yeah, I think of like strength and happiness. So I think that's a pretty cool thing, which also goes into this next thing about shapes. So has it ever occurred to you that maybe like some shapes can kind of give you a feeling like of whether it be strength or happiness or something like that? Because it actually kind of does.
Yeah. I found rings.
Yeah.
They usually mean unity or completion. Squares, not much. I feel like if I think of an arrow type shape, I think of more up in elevation. Diamonds, I think of strong.
Yeah.
So I mean, a square and a diamond are the same, just turned. But it's funny how like straight on a square, nothing turned on its side. I think of strong.
Yeah. Well, even so something round, so like a circle over oval. Apparently they kind of trigger warm and fuzzy feelings. So kind of like what you're saying about the ring, you say unity. That's kind of what the circle does. It creates a community. It creates like a love and a unity. So I think it's kind of funny because obviously a light bulb is somewhat roundish, but that means that our light bulb not only illuminates happiness and joyfulness, but also a community and a unity. And it's so funny that something as simple as a light bulb in any other position might mean a light bulb.
It's neat how you say that. A part of our logo too, when we were developing it, so it's for people that don't know it, it is a light bulb with about 6, I guess, luminescence around it, and then a frame of a house on the outside. When we first developed it, my favorite part is the fact that the light bulb glows. And the glow actually goes outward around the light bulb, but it is a circular glow.
Yeah.
I feel like it draws you in, and it also kind of creates curiosity. It almost brings the logo to life as well. So yeah, I love imagery. It's wicked. Yeah.
And even so our logo, like you said, as the house around it. So straight lines even too kind of demonstrate strength. So that goes back to like what I even said with the strength and happiness is, you know, you wanted last week when you were talking, you said you like the idea of the light bulb and then the house around it because it did have to deal with education, a light bulb, and also the house real estate,
Yeah.
which are two things that obviously you're very proud of and
Mm-hmm.
well knowledgeable in. So I think that that's kind of interesting too because again, you might not even have realized it when you're building that house that those straight lines equaled strength too.
No.
Yeah. Isn't
Yeah.
that so? It's crazy. That's the one thing that I really wanted to point out today for our viewers and our listeners is if you're creating a company and you're working on a logo, it's really important to think clearly about the image that you're giving off because that's one of the first identifying factors of your brand identity. So definitely look into it, consider it, do a Google, figure out what it means because, what if we'd used a square and no light bulb or something? It might have portrayed more of a stern kind of environment from just the logo, right? But we didn't. We used a light bulb.
I get stuck in that.
Yeah.
It's really easy and really fun to go down the road of logo design.
Yeah.
I think when we were kids, we've all like written our signature out
Yeah.
the way that we wanted to, and then we think that people will perceive us by the way that we write it. So I think logo design is part of our DNA. I think when we were doing the logo design, it's funny how it comes to be to the point that you like it, which is amazing. However, we should also think, well, our clients like it. And I think that that's 99% of it. The 1% that we like it, it's great. I don't think anybody would choose a logo that they personally hated.
No.
But it should be client focused.
Exactly.
If you can get both, then obviously it makes a difference. One more thought on that logo.
Yeah.
It's funny how if you have a logo behind you, you represent a logo, which represents a company. But it's neat that if you, I can guarantee people that work in large corporate structures, say Nike or IBM, the logo of that on their business card probably makes them equally or probably more proud than if they just said they worked for IBM. I think it's a stamp, like a stamp of honor almost. So when you have a good logo or something, even if it's a company that people don't recognize, if people look at the logo and they're like, that's a nice logo, then all of a sudden there's a sense of pride with it. I have knowledge broker hats that I made that were pretty cool. I gave them out to some friends. Friends loved it. I made it simple on the thing on the front. Took out the knowledge broker words, just had the light and the house. And I went on vacation a few times, and people came up to me and said, "That's a really cool logo." And then they're like, "What is it?" And I said, "It's a company I have." And then when I told them, I said I did real estate, and they're like, "Oh, I get it. That's really cool."
Yeah.
And it was just neat that I was like, "Yeah, thanks."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, before you know it, it gives you another something to be proud of for working for, but also something that people are kind of intrigued by.
And I honestly could talk about these logo things
Same.
forever, but we got to move on. So when we're talking about our brand identity for Knowledge Broker, what do you think developed it? Obviously, it wasn't just the logo and the company name, but what other factors of it do you think contribute to creating our brand identity?
It's funny. We've been working a lot here on process recently and ironing out the process to make sure that it's very consistent for every single client from beginning to end, yet custom so that it tailors to their needs. We recently did the entire process of writing out every single step, and say there was like 250 or 300 steps, which I thought was the first time I had done this. And then I went back into my previous notes of when I first got in the business, and I actually did the exact same thing myself. So before I knew anything about real estate, I was already writing out the steps. I did it so I wouldn't forget anything, and I reminded myself as I did it. Oddly enough, now we do it so we can perfect the process.
Yeah.
So similar concept. So when it came to like the knowledge broker idea, I wanted to create this transparency where people can see what we do, to the point that I show them the entire process so that they understand where they are in the process and where they're going. And it's not, in some of the first original videos we did, I wanted to talk about how we lift the veil of real estate so that people don't sit there and go, "Oh, I don't know what my real estate agent did. I don't know how they sold my house and they made 5% commission and they did it in a day." Well, I mean, if they do it in a day, fantastic. I show everybody what we do all the way up to the day that we list the property, and then thereafter. So it's neat that people can actually see it, and it gives you far more value, and people appreciate that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And well, on going with the process, uh, because our process is very unique, and like you said, we're constantly updating it. We're going along with it constantly. There's a couple of questions that I think are really key. And again, this goes back to our listeners and our viewers. Things to keep in mind when creating a stronger process. And obviously, Knowledge Broker has been around for almost 5 years, and we're constantly
I've
improving.
been doing it for 15.
You've been doing it for 15.
But the idea is you have to have patience.
Yes,
It
of
expands.
course. So I just have a couple questions that I want you to answer as if, you're moving forward kind of thing. How can we make this better? And this is something that you guys at home or wherever you're listening can also use in your own kind of companies in your lives, because I think that these questions I think I only got 3 here. I think are really important to ask yourself constantly to make sure you're on the right track. So I'm going to ask you, and I want you to see, if we could describe our brand in 3 words, what would it be? And again, moving forward into the future.
I think it's still founded on the values that we created, which is honesty, transparency, and integrity.
Okay.
And I got to stick to them because they're the only ones that come to my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's nothing, I mean, if I think about the future, I don't see it changing.
Mm-hmm.
Honesty, transparency, integrity. If I could think about, I guess, other words, fun, philanthropic, as long as I'm getting that word right.
Philanthropic?
Yeah. Community involved.
Mm-hmm.
So community, fun. When I say fun, I mean for the employees and for clients.
Mm-hmm.
What else would there be? I think those are the 2 that would come to my head now.
Mm-hmm.
So in the future, I mean, we're already fun, but it's kind of like I want to make sure that that maintains, and the community's huge.
Yeah.
Whether we stay in our local area or if Knowledge Worker grows out, I still want it to have very much a sense of community wherever it is.
Yeah. I would say also adaptable would be a really good word, because, well, as we're going to discuss later in the podcast, so much has changed in real estate, and I feel like our business particularly will be adapting in the future. And I think that's a really core word to describe us, that we're not stuck in the past. Like we talked about last week, your idea of what you want real estate to look like, with salary employees, that's something that would be adaptable down the line. Mm-hmm. So I think that's also a really key word. Your brand personality. If your brand was a person, what kind of personality would it have?
It's funny how you say that. I think of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of the people that I really admire is, say, like a Barack Obama.
Okay.
I like his personality.
Mm-hmm.
He's got really cool, strong leadership skills. Clearly smart.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily talk about his smartness because you don't need to. So personality in regards to how he can communicate with people, talk to people, relate to people, listen to people. He also has an ability to have some humor. Whether his humor applies to everybody, who knows? But he's got a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. He can take a joke.
So yeah, and give it too.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that when I think of like Knowledge Broker as a personality, I think of someone like that, like very, and I mean, like I look at that as not an idol per se, but someone that I look up to.
Yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I look at that, even whether he's the president of the United States or not, it makes no difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the fact that I just like the way he carries himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's very honest, in my opinion. And I think that if I could label Knowledge Broker, male, female, makes no difference, but carry yourself properly, be honest, be, I guess, humble at the same time that you can also have a good chuckle. Mm-hmm. So I think of a professional that has fun.
Yeah, I love that answer. I think that's a really great way to look at that question, and I think that was perfect. So
Thanks.
Gold star for you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, sorry about the quick interruption. I just wanted to let you know that our camera shut off at this point during filming, so there's no more visual to go with audio. I'm really sorry. We're still new to this, so there's probably going to be a couple more hiccups along the way. But you can keep listening and finish the podcast if you just keep watching. So, keep watching. Your unique positioning. How do you differentiate yourself from your competition?
You'd be surprised how, and we talked about this before in a past episode about how every real estate agent out there is just a name.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at any marketplace, and everybody can relate to this at home, you drive by a sign, you see one name, you drive by another sign, you see another name, and you seldom look at the company. Sometimes people do look at the company that sells the house, but often they try to associate it with a person's name. I've differentiated to the point that I've wanted to create this brand that's not a person's name so that people can remember a brand easier and actually relate to a brand rather than a person. So the differentiator for us is the fact that we are creating a company that does do real estate. But the nice thing is people can relate to the business. So as we grow, people that work within Knowledge Broker, people already know that they're going to be a certain type of person. And they're going to get a certain type of experience no matter who they talk to. So what are we doing differently? I would say that besides our consistency and our transparency, which we've talked about, we're doing something different where people can relate to a business that makes them feel good at heart. It's not like they're doing business with a friend. They trust their friend to sell their house. They're working with an organization that they know has got their back. We're doing a lot of stuff after the sale to the point that we keep them involved, invite them to parties, invite them to social events. We send out, there's a lot of marketing that we put out that's of value. It's not just stuff that goes in the mail that gets thrown out. We send out a quarterly newsletter to keep everybody posted on what their houses are worth in their local areas. We invite them to different local events, whether it's ones that we're hosting or others. We make sure that they are community involved. So even when it comes to doing the giving side of things, we promote that so that people do these things in their community. So we're the conduit for them in their community.
Yeah.
So we're a connector very much. And I think that makes a huge difference compared to some people in real estate that are just looking to sell a lot of houses. We're not necessarily doing that at all. Obviously, we want to work with clients and sell houses, but our job is to work with every single one like they're the only one.
Yeah. So to kind of play devil's advocate on that one, yes, I agree that in real estate you see a lot of people's names on signs, but you also see a lot of companies. So, Remax is a huge company. Remax puts their logo on everything. So how is Knowledge Broker just, by creating a logo that people recognize with their brand, how is that really different from someone like Remax who kind of does the same thing?
If you look at traditional real estate brokerages, Remax, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Royal LePage, they're international franchises. And they hire or people buy into their franchise model. And then those are considered, they call them broker owners. And then below that, they have sales representatives. So you have the head office, which is the master franchise. You have the people that own the franchises. And then you have sales reps. The sales reps traditionally market themselves and only themselves. The companies don't often market themselves because they let the real estate agents do the marketing for themselves. And then the head office, they do marketing that kind of relates to client, but they also try to get more franchises.
Okay.
With Knowledge Broker, it's different in the sense that we're doing all three. So we as a company, as we grow, sales representatives work for the business. No different than if you work for Apple. People that work for Apple work for Apple. They might be very specialized in computer software, but they work for the company. So it's a very short line between who you are and who you represent. So everybody that works for Knowledge Broker represents Knowledge Broker. The company does all the marketing as if they are the head office, they are the franchise, so to speak, and they are the sales representative. So it's a bit different than a traditional model in the sense that if in a perfect world, to compare it to what you stated about Remax, for example, then sales representatives would work for Remax, not a brokerage. They would work for that company and that company only. That was what Knowledge Broker would be. So we've taken the entire thing and smushed it into one.
Yeah. Oh, all right. That sounds. I feel like I know more about Knowledge Broker now. Okay, so switching gears, let's talk about personal brands. So this is a Knowledge Broker. This is you as Joshua Campbell, real estate broker for Knowledge Broker. This is me, Trish Riswick, marketing manager at Knowledge Broker. So how would you describe your personal brand?
would we kind of use Instagram as an idea to talk about that?
Yeah, like you can,
Like how you present yourself or
yeah.
how you walk on the street?
I mean, your personal brand does have a lot to do with how you portray yourself in every way of life. So that can include social media. So however you see fit to answer it, go ahead.
Okay. So straight up, blatant, honest truth.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, you would see people around you, whether it's a parent, a friend's parent, an older guy in school, who knows, a stranger on the street. When I saw someone that I thought I wanted to be, not necessarily knowing their job, I don't have a clue about that, just the way someone carries themselves, that set in my mind what I liked. So, that being said, I find that going out of the house in the morning and looking presentable, whether you're not necessarily going to the gym, I'm not going to wear a suit to the gym.
I'm sorry, you're not?
Yeah, some people.
That's absurd.
Some people do, but usually after work. Some people wear them before, and I don't know. But when you're going out of the house, I try to carry myself the way that not caring what other people think, but I've modeled myself as to what I thought I wanted to look like. So if I'm a 5-year-old kid and I saw myself older, I would want to be me. And that's how I modeled myself. So I modeled to what I wanted to look like, which is someone that looks professional, clean shaven, good shape. I mean, sometimes I have a beard, but still clean.
Groomed.
Yeah, sure. Jackets, ties, wears a suit frequently. Just carries himself in a proud manner, and but also on weekends wears flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt. So I mean, I ultimately related myself to that. My friends bug me a lot because they always, if my hair's not done, they're like, Josh, like, go do this. It's driving me nuts. Because they just know that I keep myself put together.
Yeah, so you're like the businessman who actually can relax sometimes.
Yeah, I love to relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, so for me, when I think of my personal brand, I think of a pretty. I'm just kidding. Honest, hardworking, motivated, put together, especially because I do agree. Like I like looking good, like I don't like leaving the house wearing like pajama pants and like a tank top or something. That's never been me. So I do like to feel good and I like to look good, whether that means like, sometimes I don't need to wear any makeup and I feel like I look good, but I still want to look somewhat put together and presentable. But yeah, I think some keywords would definitely be just honest and hardworking, motivated, and I think down to earth. I think I'm pretty down to earth. I don't have my head too high in the clouds.
I mean, like for me to give you an idea of how you carry yourself, it's probably similar to me in the sense that if I carry myself in a certain way, it does give me confidence.
Oh, big time.
If sometimes it does elevate it. I mean, you already carry a certain level of self-esteem and confidence, but if all of a sudden you're wearing a suit or a dress, or a certain pair of shoes or something else, whatever the component is, you all of a sudden have that one little extra % of confidence that might actually push you to having that conversation or that introduction with someone that you might not have otherwise had the confidence to do. And you know what? There's something to be said about that, and it's a huge thing of value. Not everybody values that, but maybe they haven't tried it.
I'm glad you said value because that kind of ties into why is a personal brand so important. Again, think about this, listeners, when you're, just thinking about, like, if you have nothing to think about this. Because I think it is truly important to see how others view you. I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, I hate social media. I hate getting tied down with social media and stuff like that. But even social media has value to identify what your personal brand identity is. And having a really well curated, social media page that does say a lot about you has value. Is in the same way that when you're a little kid and you see someone walking down the street and you say, wow, that guy carries himself really well. I think that social media is almost becoming like a second persona of how does this person carry themselves? And I know for me, when I was growing up, I look at social media and there was always the boys and the girls that are going out every weekend and they're posting photos of them drinking and getting drunk and like doing like illegal things or like stealing signs and whatnot. And I always thought to myself, like, that's what you want people to see you as? Like, you want people, even a potential employer, because Instagram, like social media will follow you around forever. You want someone to identify, a delinquent or, someone who, illegally drinks or whatever. Like, you want people to identify that with you. So off that though, I think social media especially is showing that you can add value to yourself based on, what your interests are, who you follow, who you, identify with. So like if for you, Barack Obama is a really big influence to you. So I know obviously you're not looking for a job, but if like, for example, if someone was
I do every day.
Oh, well, I mean, you do. Yes. But I'm not saying you're like going to become like a cashier or something. I think that who we follow, what we represent, things that we post about, places we go, they're adding value to who we are as an identity. Would you agree, disagree?
I agree to a degree.
Okay.
I agree about the value. I think that social media has taken away the veil. And I think that is who you are.
Yeah.
So some people go on social media and eventually you can't lie. You can put up the odd picture and control what people think of you. But the thing is, if it's not real, it's going to leak through. People know that it's not you. You can't present this fake persona and think people are going to think you're something when you're not. It actually probably works out worse. People just know it's fake. And you can almost tell in the genuinity. Genuinity? It's how genuine it is.
Yeah.
They can tell how genuine it is and how real it is. So when you think about the people, we've all done stupid things in our life, and sometimes you capture them on camera. Sometimes you're too young and immature to know it. I've done it myself, where you put something up online and then you reflect, and often it's usually someone more mature, usually a parent, that says, "Is that really what you want to have out there?" And then you recognize that it's not. Was it who you were at that moment? Sure, you did it. Is it something you want people to know about? Not necessarily. So when it comes to adding value, I think that it has taken away this cloak where people can really see who you are. There is a bit of control though, because people can control what they put up on Instagram. And I mean, but within reason. I mean, you can't hide so much. There is one thing that drives me nuts though. And when you see people's pages that are loaded up with their best qualities.
Yeah.
No one puts down their worst. Which, is that a real representation of who they are?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. That's why I feel like it's giving you a second, almost like it's like a second opinion kind of thing, but it's not the full opinion.
Could it be a sense of insecurity? People put up only their best on Instagram so that people only see their best and not their worst, even though it is who they are?
Well, that's actually a really interesting point because I mean, obviously I like to think that I'm not this kind of person, but say if you're on average getting 100 and something likes on Instagram because, you post that photo. For me, like I went to New Zealand and I posted these great photos and I got tons of likes on them. Do I think that I would have got those same amount of likes if I had posted, when I'm stranded in the middle of a campsite or something like that? Who knows?
Maybe. I think the like part is relatability.
Yeah.
I think there's a component to people liking the image. They like the fact that you're there. They like it because they've been there. They like it because it's relatable to some degree.
Yeah.
I don't like it when I feel bad for people when they take their likes and they associate that with how popular or how good of an image it was. I think that I've seen, is it Facebook or it's Instagram that's taken down?
Instagram got rid of it, yeah.
I think Facebook probably will eventually. You can still see it, but it's not blatant. People can still find out one more click and you can see who liked it and who didn't. You can count them, I guess. The purpose of, I think, that the social media thing is to connect the world. And it's just a new way to connect. So as long as you want to show people what you're doing. I think people want to be like, oh, you did that last weekend. And people are still finding it weird that someone's like, I saw what you did last weekend. How was it? And people are like, I can't believe that person asked me that question.
I do
And it's
that
like,
all the time.
but you put it out online for people to talk about it. Did you
Yeah.
think the conversation was only going to stay online?
No.
No, it's not realistic. And
I
yeah, you
yeah.
understand.
I literally saw a photo of my friend and her boyfriend last night on Facebook, and I took a screenshot and I sent it to her, and I was like, "Why are you guys so cute?" It's like I didn't comment on the photo I saw on Facebook. I took a screenshot and I sent it to her. And yeah, that's like, I think that there is so much more to social media.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just another form of communication. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean it has to stay in that. Your friend would phone you. Do you have to phone them back or you can text them? I mean, if someone texts you on social media, do you have to go through that medium to get back to them? No. It's just another form of communication, which is largely become a major form of communication. Very little do people pick up the phone anymore, which isn't necessarily a problem. It's just that it's adapted. It'll probably go back.
So we're almost done here. I have one more thing, and it's coming from a point of hiring people. So as kind of a closing thought, I wanted to ask, because I think brand identities are really important, and I think identifying what yours is also very vital. I know for me, I've been reflecting on who I am as a person since like I understood what the word reflection meant. So from a hiring standpoint, from working with coworkers, that kind of stuff, do you think that personal brands can clash? And are personal brands something that we should be looking for when we hire people now?
Yeah. I used to think less. Now I think more. Especially with the day of social media, and which shouldn't really count too much, but it does. If a company hires somebody that they don't trust, could go live on Facebook or Instagram, or represent them at a public meeting, or go to a luncheon, or represent them amongst clients, you shouldn't hire them. There was a golden rule back in the day that people would suggest before you hire somebody, take them out to lunch to see how they conduct themselves, and then you can decide whether they're worth hiring or not. I can't stress how important that is now more than ever, especially with social media, because people can see into the world of the business so much easier. So more than ever, I would say image. Obviously, there's the stuff behind it, work ethic, skills, education, knowledge, experience, you name it. But image is probably becoming top notch, unless someone's working in a closet 10 floors underground. I still feel like they leave that closet eventually. And if they're on the street getting trashed at night, and people know that they work for your company, that represents your company. So no, image is 100% equally as important as every other, and maybe a bit more because it's what people see.
And so with the clashing then, do you think that like personal brands can clash?
Within an office place?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that it's almost like there's the sore thumb or the black sheep in the room. If they are the closet person that lives in the 10 floors underground, maybe people are more okay with it. But I feel like no different than the way that people dress, the way that they carry themselves, the way that they think, they're going to mesh. If they don't mesh, it's going to be really obvious that they're not meshing. And often they'll probably end up find themselves exiting, or you probably should not have hired them in the first place. You can't like people for who you want them to be. You have to like them for who they are.
So true. So true. The one thing I just wanted to say to all of our viewers is a really good example of what your brand identity is one of the reasons why you hired me was because you thought I'd be good with your children.
Yeah.
And I think, and obviously we hadn't met. I had sent my, cover letter and my questions, but that was also taken off from like social media and how I presented myself. You were like, that looks like someone that I could like give my newborn son to and be like, can you hold this for a minute?
Yep. Especially having like a grassroots business with home offices and the ability to see family. And we all juggle the world these days to the point that work is kind of a major part of life and it doesn't just close at the end of the day. When I think about that, I didn't judge it on social media. I didn't see a picture and go, she looks friendly enough to hold a child. I had to meet them, but it did help.
Yeah.
Meeting you in person was also the ability to know that trusting them with a child, if you could trust someone with your child, they're probably worth hiring. if you don't trust them with your child, you might want to second guess your thoughts. It seems reasonable.
But I think it's interesting because it's like, it's not like I post anything of me holding a baby or I present this idea that I'm very motherly or something. It's just like, that's just the way I present myself on, you know, in my cover letters, in my resume, in my social media, I just present myself as, you know, who I am, which isn't a baby hating woman.
No, and it's also the real side. When you feel like people are faking their social appearance on whether it's social media or in person, that's when the trust factor goes down, and then you know that that's not who they are, and then you don't necessarily know if you can trust them. So I think that when people are very real, it is who they are. You can't hide it. People don't necessarily judge you, but they can relate with you and trust you, and it makes life a lot easier.
Well, I think we're going to end on that note.
Awesome.
I think this was a really great discussion. I hope you guys took some good stuff away from it. I know I did. When I was like creating these questions and stuff, I was like, wow, that's like a lot of, you know, reflection myself. So Josh, any closing thoughts?
No, thank you very much for those ideas. They're great.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't get to see any of these ideas. We do this off the cuff. Trish gets to prepare everything ahead of time, so I get the fun of being able to just think on the fly, which I really enjoy, and I can't wait to do the next one.
Yeah, me too. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday. I'm Trish.
And I'm Josh.
And have a good week.
Take care. Thank you very much for stopping by our channel. If you have any questions or if you're looking to buy or sell, go to our website and contact us today. Knowledge is power and creates experts in understanding. If you want power, hit thumbs up on this video and subscribe to our channel so you can get weekly videos from me, your knowledge broker.